Hello everyone, this is Juan Bloisi with Watchdog Interpreters, and today we're going to have a second part to a video that we recorded on November 6th last year with an undercover interpreter from Argentina exposing the global company for their abuse towards interpreters, exploitation when it comes to wages, and very poor working conditions. And we wanted to give you a follow-up and a surprise because we do have this undercover interpreter, and the interpreter is going to talk about the consequences of the interview, the impact, the viral repercussions for the global company and the interpreting community. So let's get started. Because, believe it or not, Globo retaliated against the whistleblower. And I know you're going to be freaking out. I already know this because you are an interpreter in Washington State. Everybody's afraid to say something because you think, you're going to lose your job or anything like that. Remember, interpreters in Latin America, unfortunately, do not have the same protections that we have in the U.S. If somebody retaliates because you're exercising your free speech, guess what? They're liable for a lawsuit, defamation, and damages and all that. And I have always said you don't have to be afraid. Unfortunately for this interpreter, there was a retaliation, and I want to get started with these images so you remember exactly what was happening back then. This is the video from November 6th, and if you want to get acquainted with what happened in that video, feel free to go ahead and watch it. So, and then it was about the global company. This undercover interpreter from Argentina, reached out to Watchdog Interpreters, wanting some help to expose these abuses. And if you remember, this interpreter exposed that they were getting paid $7.50 an hour, while some interpreters were getting paid $4 to $6 an hour from other companies. But Globo was paying this interpreter $7.50 an hour. And so this interpreter was talking about how unfair is the treatment from the global company, and was very thankful that we were able to have that interview. And she exposed the situation with the shift program that Globo had for the interpreters and the poor working conditions when they were talking about the breaks and the inhumane conditions some interpreters had to endure because of their policies. However, I do have this interpreter right here. So for the first time, you're going to see the interpreter's face and what really happened. So here we are with Laura. How are you doing, Laura?
Fine, all things considered.
Well, thank you so much for doing this interview with us as a follow-up. And it's kind of a shock, but at the same time, it's not. We knew that this retaliation could happen, but why don't you tell us what really happened? Talk about the aftermath of the video, the virality of it, how your coworkers took the whole thing, and what the global company did. Go ahead.
Well, of course, the video went live. At first, it was only shared with a group of people that, as you know, there were about 6 of us that wanted to speak about it. They knew that I made a video, but others didn't. After about a month or so, I decided to share the link to the LinkedIn profile that is called Interpreter Union, because they also, amplify voices of other interpreters that are trying to, saying about their companies, what they're doing, how they're feeling about it. So they shared the link without saying that it was me, obviously. And to the next day, I received an email while I was working. I was about to start my last hour of the day. I had a 4-hour shift, yes, and I was like in an hour and 50. And all of a sudden, I stopped having calls. And I was, it's like 7 here in Argentina, and it's about 5 in New York. So maybe it's slow because of that. It was a Wednesday. And I checked my phone. I received an email saying that, they had monitored my calls and they wanted to talk to me from QA. So I had to schedule a meeting. And until then, my skills, which is a very curious choice of words because my skills are mine. It just say the access to the portal has been blocked or has been deactivated. So, well, of course, at the moment I freaked out because, it's a QA meeting. I was like, okay, it's been 2 years that I'm in this company. I never had a QA meeting. Maybe that's why. Maybe someone, maybe something happens. During that week, I had some issues with my computer. So maybe that's the reason why.
Wait.
But, well.
So you had a QA meeting, and wow, this is crazy. So they lowered your hours. You had that meeting. I'm going to show those images you were sharing with me. Hold on a minute. Yeah, like I said, I want to show those images. So let's go to those images right here so people can see what you're talking about right here. So can you talk about this first image right here? What is it that we can see?
Well, that one is the one when I was suspended. They say that they suspended my skills until I have the meeting with QA. And there was a link below so I can schedule a meeting. And when I opened the link, it was like a month ahead. I thought maybe, this was on a Wednesday. If I'm lucky, I might have something for Thursday or Friday, maybe next week. But it was a month later. And I was like, if my skills will be paused for an entire month, it means that I need to find another job. Because I won't be having money, to eat or anything.
I see.
So, of course, I spiraled down. I did have kind of a breakdown because I was freaking out. But I scheduled the meeting for January 6th. This email was on December 10th. So I scheduled the meeting. And I told you not to the next day, but to the other one, I think. And I let you know about.
This is crazy. So this is December 10th right here. And yes, we can read right here. It says, we have been monitoring your calls and would like to meet with you. So this is kind of like a false pretension right here. Oh, we want to talk to you about monitoring your calls and all that. And so the second image right here we see from December 12th. It says, thank you for scheduling a meeting. And with the quality assurance team, your skills have been activated. You may begin taking calls. And they're giving you a meeting date on January 6th. So you started taking calls. What happened again here?
Well, in the first email, it says that everything will be paused until I have the meeting. But in here, they backtracked and it's like, well, it's until you schedule the meeting. That was very curious for me. I picked it up immediately. But, well, I was, okay, I'll keep on working and we'll see what happens. So this was on a Friday that I received this email. And it was already late in the afternoon. I said, well, I will start again on Monday. And on Monday, when I tried to log in, I was still suspended. Because my portal didn't have access to the linguist dashboard. That's where I received the calls. So I had to send in a ticket saying this happened, I was suspended, then they lift the suspension and they fix it somewhere in the afternoon of Monday. So I started on Tuesday. And I worked, and there was a change as well on which line I was, because I was a medical interpreter. I was in a program that is called MSI, so it's Medical Services Interpreter, and I was having just customer service calls. I had calls that I never had before about mortgages, about car insurance and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, they sent me to hell, basically. And my co-workers, they were saying, well, you can present a ticket and they will put you back on medical. And I was like, I'm going just to withstand it for a month. We'll see what happens after the meeting, because maybe I'll be fired after the meeting. So I don't see why should I try to make a change at all.
Right.
And so I stayed with that kind of calls for a month.
So you were pretty much smelling what the global company was cooking. I mean, they're not The Rock, but, there it goes. I see a third image right here. This is from January 8th. What's happening here? It says, thank you for your dedicated service to Globo. We truly appreciate the contributions you've made as an interpreter. But it says right here, based on the discussion during our meeting on January 6th, we are terminating our independent contractual agreement with you, effective immediately. So basically, they're letting you go. And then it says right here, please rest assured that any outstanding payments for interpreting minutes will be processed through our regular payment cycles. So they just let you go. What happened in the meeting?
Yes. Well, the meeting was scheduled to be half an hour. It was 30 minutes, and it was actually 15 minutes. The person that was supposed to meet me got into the meeting 15 minutes late. She did apologize because, it's rude to just show up 15 minutes late. I was about to disconnect. I was like, well, I'll reschedule, I guess. Well, she apologized. I don't remember if she said her name, but she said that she was from QA. But this was about the video that I made with you. And I was like, if this is a QA meeting, I assumed that it was going to be about one of my goals or about a report that maybe I had or something. They were like, no, this is about the video. And they were, this wasn't a setup. We were not trying to trick you into something else. Like, yeah, right.
Yeah, it's not a setup. You're talking about monitoring my calls, and then all of a sudden we have this QA meeting about a video? Like, what's going on? They knew exactly what they were doing, right? It's crazy, but continue.
Yes. Well, at the moment, they asked me, why did I do it? And, sadly for me, I'm an angry crier. So I was really angry. I was fuming, but I was crying. And that made it look like I was just begging for my job. Actually, no, I was really angry. I was pissed off. But, well, this lady started to, school me on, you shouldn't have spoken about the company. There are other ways to show your discomfort. And, as you know, I wrote a letter. It's on LinkedIn. And I put some of those phrases that she said to me.
Wait, but let's read what you said right here, because I think this is important for the interpreter. So basically, they let you go, and you didn't admit to the video right away, but they trapped you. So you were so angry, you were emotional, you were pissed off. And so you admitted to the whole thing. You're like, yeah, so what? I did it. But in my opinion, they couldn't figure it out. They had a suspicion. Because remember, Laura, and for everyone watching this video, I have conducted interviews with some of you before. I continuously show screenshots and information, and I make sure to black out any sensitive information so you're not exposed. And with Laura, we did the same thing. We rehearsed the interview, and we agreed on things that we were going to show, not to compromise her identity. And if you remember that interview, her face was blurred, and I even changed her voice. There was no way the company knew about the identity from Laura's identity, but they were just fishing, and they knew she was going to be intimidated. That's what I think they intimidated you. And I'm not going to say that you fell for it, but you probably had enough and you were like, you know what, the heck with this. Is that what happened? You had enough and you didn't want to deny it anymore because you wanted to be done with it? Is that what happened?
No, there was no point of me denying it. I don't think any of my coworkers sold me out or anything.
Okay.
Maybe they were trying. Maybe they just took a shot in the dark and I was stupid enough to fall for it. But I think that, they have their tools, most likely.
Yeah.
I
don't think they figured it out. They had a pretty decent, educated suspicion. They took their shot, and then you, of course, wanted it to be done with the whole thing. But, it's okay. I think it's a sense of relief. But going back to the LinkedIn post right here, and I want you watching this video to follow along with me. Listen to this, because we got some comments on the comment section from the video. Some people reached out to me, and most interpreters were supporting Laura because of how she exposed the global company and how these companies are exploiting interpreters in Latin America. And they were happy with the video. But there were a couple of outliers kind of like defending the company, like, oh, she knew what she was getting into. She accepted the rates and all that stuff. And it's like, a slave mentality. I respect everyone's opinion. But I think it's unfair because some people may have thought that Laura was just trying to expose the company for no reason to create a problem. But look at what Laura says right here. I'm usually very calm and collected. I don't get into trouble nor wish to be involved in any kind of conflict. But sometimes you just have to speak. Amen to that. I feel the same way. I was recently fired by Globo because after seeing how my coworkers were being ignored by management and higher ups, I asked for help elsewhere. See, she was thinking about her coworkers. She looked for help. Okay, so she reached out to us, Watchdog interpreters. This was definitely a capital sin, and they came after my head. However, even after that, this is what Laura is saying. I'm not speaking for Laura. I'm just reading what she posted here. She says, I have no intention of doubling down, quote unquote, or follow the good old, quote unquote, there is no hell like a scorned woman. So in reality, she's not looking for war, right? And then she says, I just want them to listen. Isn't it just, beautiful when our intentions can be articulated in such a clear way? Like, look, I don't want any conflict. I understand your company. I understand we're the interpreters. This is a contractual relationship, but we feel you're not listening. And because you're not listening after, we had that interview with you before, you exposed how your coworkers, yourself, many interpreters were constantly bringing up these concerns. And they were always making excuses, always just disregarding your concerns as interpreters. So at some point you say, okay, I had my limit. This is my breaking point. And then she says, when any of us raises our voices, it is to help you companies to be better. Exactly. Because you companies need us interpreters. You need us to fulfill the jobs and to get paid. So why wouldn't you listen? It doesn't cost you anything. And not only listening, why don't you pay what's fair? Okay. And that's another discussion for who establishes the market rate and all that. There's nothing that would make us happier than recommend you to friends that need work. See, Laura, even after that, even after getting, quote unquote fired or her contract terminated, she's like, it would make me happy to actually recommend you to my coworkers and some other people. But you just wouldn't listen. You know what I mean? Is it so hard to listen, Globo and all the other companies working in Latin America and even here in the US exploiting interpreters? It's not so hard. And then Laura finishes here saying, we're not machines, we're not numbers, we are people. And I just get to say bravo. This is actually the message and the attitude that we should have. I know that I'm a little more aggressive, a little more out there, because sometimes you have to be heard. When being calm, collected, and polite doesn't work, sometimes you have to yell out a little bit to grab somebody's attention. But I love how you, Laura, expressed in the beginning of your letter this situation. And so this is the first paragraph of your letter. Okay, and I'm going to read this, and with that, I'm going to let Laura continue with her recounting of the events. She says, I'm done being a number. By the way, a link for this LinkedIn post containing Laura's letter about Globo, it's going to be shared in the description box of this video and the email that I'm sending to all interpreters, by the way. She says, I'm done being a number. That was one of my last lines in the meeting that resulted in my firing from Globo Solutions. I did expose them in the industry of remote interpretation online in an interview with Washington interpreters. I admit it. There is no reason to deny it. That was me, and those were my emails. I knew that if I were to be found, I could be fired. Okay, sometimes you just have to stop being afraid. You have to make a difference, because at the end of the day, these are material things, jobs, money, statuses, all that stuff is just, it comes and goes. Sometimes you have to be at peace and do what's right for you and your coworkers, your community, and the people that you care about. All right. Still, I had to do it because I had my fill. She was done with it. So tell me a little bit about that meeting, because I do have a couple of more images, but I want you to tell me about that meeting and what transpired there.
Well, the rest of my letter has a few quotes from this lady from QA. I don't know if you want to put the next slide. The first one of the first things that she told me was there are other ways to show your discomfort.
Yeah.
And actually, there wasn't because I saw my coworkers in Slack when they were complaining about the whole break, issue that we had. Some of them got fired in spot. Some others got suspended, and they got meetings again with, I think the vice president and stuff like that, vice CEO. I'm sorry. So, what other options did I have? To submit a ticket? That was not going to work. And they were probably going to fire me either way, just for raising my voice. I needed someone to listen, as I said before, because they were not listening. And if this was the way to do it, so be it. And well, the other part is you shouldn't have mentioned the company, you've shared private information. I understand, as I said, I'm a publicist. That's what I started. I understand you don't want to have anyone saying anything bad about your company, but I think the easiest way to prevent that is to actually do good things for your people instead, of, doubling down in any inconvenience that we may have. And, and you share private information. I mean, my rates, though, is that the private information that I shared? I didn't show you the portal. I didn't give you access to log in into my account. You didn't see, I didn't make you kind of shadow listening to my calls or anything. There wasn't any private information that was like super classified, and I shared with you. So it was just my email saying my rates. And yes, we are not supposed to discuss rates among us, but we still do it. We have a WhatsApp group, and as far as I know, there are many other WhatsApp groups from Globo, and we did talk about it. And we know that we don't have the same rates, even if we started on the same date sometimes. I don't know why they do it. I think it's a lot more work for them, for the payroll department, to remember, oh, this interpreter has this and this for phone and video instead of having some standard. I really don't know what they do it. But well, if that was like the private information that I shouldn't have shared, well, I'm sorry, I guess.
Well, I think one of the things that you mentioned, going back to this image right here, is, but if I'm to report someone, I must have at least their name and some kind of evidence. I need to show the receipts. Otherwise, it is just a rumor. We're thinking alike right here, because if you watch my channel, what I do with Watchdog Interpreters, I share sometimes a little bit of too much information, but I prefer to have that risk of you maybe getting tired of watching my videos because they're too long. I try to balance that because I always show the receipts. I show documents exposing the other union, the Department of Labor and Industries, state agencies, because when you launch an opinion or what people might interpret as an accusation, you have to have proof. Those are the receipts. So what Laura has done here, it's not illegal. In my humble opinion, it's not illegal here in the US. These are not private emails containing private information. No, it's an email that you as a company shared with these interpreters discussing rates that you share with other people. You never specified in these emails, this is private and there's going to be a consequence for this, and that. It's nonsense. Once we receive something in our inbox, it's fair game. And like Laura was saying, there were other ways to show discomfort. The global company was saying to Laura, well, yeah, there were many other ways. You had WhatsApp groups, you had a Slack thing. They were not just expressing discomfort, they were yelling it out. These breaks, these rates, treat us humanely. So what else could they have done differently to get your attention? At some point, people have to say, screw it. I'm going to have to expose this in some other way. So they finally got, these interpreters, especially Laura, she got your attention, Global. I'm speaking directly to you, Global, right now. There were so many other ways to show discomfort. She did. So many ways she showed that discomfort. You didn't listen. She made a video, undercover video. And then when she finally got your attention, you schedule a QA meeting under false pretenses about monitoring some calls, and then you fire the lady. Is that what you want the attention for? Is that how you want to deal with this situation? Okay, you put us in a bad spot. This is bad PR for us. We don't like what you did. And so goodbye. So it doesn't matter what Laura was saying. It doesn't matter that she had concerns. Like, she's not the only one. She was the only one having enough pants to actually do something about it, even in an undercover manner. She had what it took. Okay. And then she decided, I'm going to take a risk just to get your attention. And then you fire her. Okay. So there is no winning with companies like you. Shame on you, Globo. Shame on you. And shame on those other, followers. Well, she knew what she was getting into. Yeah. If you live in Latin America and all you could get is $7 an hour, you're going to take it. Duh. That doesn't mean it's fair. Stop being such a butt licker. Okay? You're licking the butts of this company. You act like colonized people. Hello, it's 2026. Have some human dignity. I don't care if you get offended. When one of us gets mistreated this way, okay, you have to rise up and not think about yourself. Because this is a problem that we also have in Washington State in the United States. We do not think like a community. We think only about ourselves. Oh, I wish I could make $7 an hour because I'm in Peru and I get $3 an hour. Well, yeah, if you support Laura and we'll support Laura, maybe in Latin America, you guys could be getting higher wages because they cannot ignore everyone, right? But anyways, I know I'm ranting. This is about Laura, but I just wanted to put that out there. Firing these interpreters, global company, other companies out there, Propio, whatever other companies out there, firing these interpreters is not going to help anything because people are going to get tired. And at some point, they're going to say, no, keep your $4 an hour. Well, we're not interested. Okay. You're going to have a problem. I suggest you listen. I do have another image here that you shared with me. You want to talk about this, Laura?
Well, yes, this fits very well with what you were saying because this lady from QA, she told me, I worked in this industry for 30 years and I've seen many unjust situations. You can always quit and move on.
Whoa.
And I've seen the comments.
I did not quite read this. I worked in this industry for 30 years and I've seen many unjust situations. You can always quit and move on. This is not looking good for you at all. Continue, Laura, please.
Yes, and as I told you, and also to the people that commented, because I did read the comments on your video. And it's basically the same thing. Yes, it will fix everything for me if I just walk away. But what about the people that is already working there and the people that is going to work in there? I can't just keep on shutting up. I did it for my first two companies. When I was in Intradoc or in ICC, I was getting $3.50 and then $4 the hour, which I thought it was unjust at the time, but it was as much as I could do. But this was just too much because it's not just, the rate to me was, okay, it could be better. It could be a lot worse, I knew. But, these constant sort of, how do you say it? They were always kind of making fun of you in a way when they answer your questions. Either they ignore you, they suspend you, or they're very condescending. And why? You're my supervisor. I don't ask you to be my friend, but at least have some kind of sympathy, some basic human decency when you treat me. You can just blurt out, like Brittany did, I haven't had a break in 4 years. What's the need for that? You have to think of that sentence, write it down, press enter. There were 3 instances where you could be, this could be misread, this can be, rather aggressive, and she did it either way. So, that's the thing that kind of pissed me off the most about Globo. because there was a change on the upper management. When I entered about a few weeks later, the last one that seemed to be like the nicest one left. And actually, he's nowhere related to interpretation anymore. He has another business. So everybody's like, oh, he already knew what was going on, and he decided just to leave everything, and say goodbye. And there are being changes now as well. And yes, if I walk away by myself, I will fix everything for me. But I cannot leave someone else to go through this, especially knowing that they were lowering the fees year after year. I just got a rumor saying that the new people that are getting hired at this moment, they are getting about $5 the hour. Wow. And they having lower rates.
Wow.
I don't know. It's a rumor. I don't have any kind of confirmation, but it's something that some of my coworkers are saying, that the new interpreters have very low rates. And so what? Eventually it will be $1 the hour. What's going to be? When are they going to stop?
Yeah, and I believe you. I believe you. I believe those interpreters telling you these things, even if they're just rumors or whatnot. I'm always going to believe the worker. I'm always going to believe the interpreter, even before seeing any evidence. Of course, if I have to act out on some rumor, I have to see some evidence first before we do something about it. But I'm always going to believe when you tell me, in confidence, as a private conversation, look, this company is paying new interpreters lower than what they were paying us. Because I've seen it with my own eyes. Companies here in Washington State, in the United States, they start paying some interpreters, let's say $40 an hour. And then after 5, 6, 7 years, not getting any raises or anything like that, they get tired of paying that much money to that interpreter, and they keep on hiring newer people at $20, $30 an hour, 25, 18. And then all of a sudden, the veteran interpreter that gets a lot of hours and gets paid $40 an hour sees a reduction in the number of appointments or hours that the interpreter can make. And then they phase those interpreters out with new interpreters that are less experienced. They do the same job, but they are less experienced, but cheaper. And that's the bottom line for, unfortunately, many companies. It's unbelievable. But I want to go back to this image right here, because they told you something at the end of that meeting. And there is a line here that says, I wish you all the best, and may you keep on being the voice of interpreters. Now, I want your reaction, because this sounds to me like they're mocking you. Like, oh, you decided to make a video, we're letting you go, so we wish you the best and keep on being the voice of interpreters. Ha ha ha, see what that got you. Is that what you got from this?
That's what I got now. At the moment I was really upset because, I'm the sole breadwinner at home. I was thinking I don't have a job anymore. What I'm going to do, I have to pay taxes, I have to pay services, stuff like that. But it did stay with me because I was like, I don't know if she's being honest or if she's mocking me. Most likely she was mocking me. But well, if she wants me to start a union for remote interpreters, so be it. It's not really my ideal job. I don't like, the legal stuff and stuff. But if I have to do it, then I will. And, I'm still in contact with my coworkers, with some of them, and they are telling me stuff that is going on now in Globo. We received our payments, by the 29th, I think it was, that we received our payments from the month of December. And one thing happened on December 31st, which is, New Year's Eve. There was too many calls. It was a landslide of calls, and they were asking for reinforces, of course, because they didn't give out too much shifts because they thought it was going to be dead all day. So eventually, somewhere in the afternoon, they said, well, if you schedule 2 hours of shift, between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m., you would receive a $30 bonus. So a lot of people hopped in on the line, of course, because we want to have extra $30. And now they noticed that a lot of people that did that did not receive the bonus. And they give you the excuse that, oh, you were supposed to be 2 hours on call on the line, So if you have 1 hour and 58 minutes, you don't receive the bonus.
And that's very concerning. So they have learned nothing from your undercover viral video. They have learned nothing. They just had a meeting with you, decided to intimidate you, so you admit it was you. Once you did that, out of frustration, instead of listening and trying to work with you, they pretty much treated you like a traitor because you were standing up for your rights, for your working conditions, and for your fellow workers. Welcome to the labor movement, Laura. It's not only happening here in America; it's happening everywhere else. You mentioned that if you have to create a union for interpreters, you will. We're more than happy to mentor you here, and we're not, the best. We don't know it all, but we have some experience, and we would be able and willing to help you get something started if that's something that you want to do, which is going to transition into what I'm going to ask you after this. After this situation with Globo, you mentioned how before you're the breadwinner in your household, right? Like your family depend on you, and this was a big blow. What are you doing currently?
At this moment, I do have my projects, but first I wanted to bring other 2 points that my coworkers told me about, aside from bonus, before I forget. One of them was, there's a problem with the shift tracker. It's a program that supposedly, it compares the time that you were on the portal with the time on the clock app, when you clock in, clock out. And apparently when you clock in a break and then is compared to the time that you were on the portal doesn't recognize that as a break. And what happens is that the interpreter doesn't get paid for the full hour. It's like they pay you per minute because that is their thing. If you didn't have the hour complete, you get paid per minute. And so a lot of people is losing money because of that. And another thing is the calls. Sometimes you will receive calls that are less than a minute long, maybe like 50 seconds or something like that. And if you're doing freelance, it doesn't count. They don't get paid for that. That's something I found out recently. I didn't know about it. I always thought that all the seconds that were eventually counted. But apparently, if you have too many 1 minute calls or less than 1 minute calls, you don't receive the money for those calls. So those are the 2 main things at this moment. Oh, and also a few interpreters have been reaching out now, saying that they are receiving emails saying that there's some kind of readjustment going on and they are lowering their rates because they are getting paid above average.
Wait, what? So a readjustment means lowering the rates. Lower than the already low rate they were getting, $7 an hour. Lower than that?
Yes, the rate per minute. The shift supposedly is going to go a little bit higher, but still it's going to be just a few cents. But yes, they are changing the rates per minute, and it's a significant change for some interpreters.
So, like I said, this global company hasn't learned anything from this experience. They have gotten worse. They're going to double down like a scorned woman for sure. Unlike you're here behaving like an adult. Let's have a conversation. But no, they're so hurt. And it's so hypocritical. These companies, they get a lot of money per hour, per interpretation hour from government agencies and all that. And they want to give you meager fare. They want to give you, cents on the dollar for your services. And it's like, who establishes the market? And I hear so many counterpoints like, oh, you cannot expect interpreters in Latin America to make the same interpreters making US. Yeah, of course not. Yeah, they may have a disparity when it comes to certifications, experience, English language, whatever. But if they're doing the job and you hired these interpreters that are very competent, because let me tell you, Laura, she's an excellent interpreter. And if you're hiring them to do the same job, they're doing this, regardless of the certification or experience they may have, they are fulfilling your needs. If you're getting $80 an hour per interpretation hour from a Washington state agency or any agency in the US, why would you pay this interpreter $4 an hour just because they don't make money in dollars, just because they have some other type of currency? You're exploiting those people. That's why you're replacing American interpreters with Latin American interpreters. And like I said in the first video, I am happy that interpreters like Laura get the opportunity. I'm just not in agreement with us losing our jobs, which is not their fault as interpreters. I'm just calling out these practices from these companies. If you're going to hire these interpreters in Latin America, give them a fair wage. I don't care if 7, 8, 9, 10 bucks an hour is good for them. Pay them what's fair. You would not pay 10 bucks an hour to an interpreter here. They'll laugh at you, and they'll just run and not work with you. So if you pay at least 20, 30 bucks an hour, 25, 35, pay them the same. If you're getting 80 bucks an hour per interpretation hour from an agency here, and you pay these interpreters 25, you're still making more than half. What is your problem? You want to be colonizers. You want to exploit interpreters. Shame on you. That's what I want to say. You wanted to avoid bad PR? Well, tough luck. This is only getting started. Just let me tell you this. Yeah. Before we move on to your projects, Laura, is there anything that you wanted to say?
Going back to one of your comments, someone said, well, that's what outsourcing means. Outsourcing, it could mean, finding someone that does the same job for a cheaper price, but it's not the same than having sweatshops. That is something that I do say on my letter. We are still people, we are far away, and maybe you think that I don't deserve, I don't know, $20 the hour, but, be a little bit human and be like, well, maybe her life could improve if I pay her that amount. It's just having basic human decency. I'm not asking for any kind of luxury item. I don't want them to pay me dinner every night. I don't want them to give me, I don't know, some Ralph Lauren bag or something. Just remember that I'm a human.
Right.
Remember that I have responsibilities. I have my family on my back. I have to support them. Yeah. If I were alone in an apartment that is pretty much the size of a shoebox, I'll be fine. But my situation is different, so you have to be a little bit more equitative about it. So it's just treat us like humans and pay a little bit more. Right. You're making still a lot of money, so it shouldn't hurt you. You did have the money for a bonus of $30, even with this cheap trick. So you do have the money to do it when you want to do it.
Yes. So, I agree with you. They have the money. All it takes is just having some basic human decency. It doesn't matter what part of the world a company decides to get workers from. They're performing the same job, the same service. It's like in-person versus remote online on the phone interpretation. Why are you lowering my rates? Because I'm actually interpreting remotely. I'm performing the same labor. It's the same skill, and it gets harder when it comes to online things because you have to pay attention to more things and you have to pay for more things like internet service and all that. I know that's another conversation, but we have to, be smart and understand the language these companies use to actually put you down and make you accept their exploitation. Laura, we're reaching the end of this interview. But before we get out of here, I want to ask you, because you share with me some of the things that you're doing, and they're pretty exciting. I want people to know we have to support Laura. Laura here, she's a very creative person, not only an excellent interpreter, she's a very creative person, and she's not sitting down, bawling her eyes out, crying and pouting about this situation. She's taking charge of her life. And I want to share with you what Laura is doing. What is it that you're doing, Laura, after Globo fired you in such a way?
Well, at this moment, I'm reliving an idea I had some time ago. I was watching some films. I love films. And with my aunt, I watched movies from Argentina from 1930 to 1960. And as an exercise for me, I was translating everything in my head, in order to have some quick ways, for interpreting. And I was like, I can do that. I can introduce these movies to an English-speaking audience. So I decided to subtitle movies from our golden age of movies. And, I do captions for the hearing impaired in Spanish. And I then translate the same captions to English. So if someone wants to watch these movies that are very good, you can do it. And I have the Patreon for that. My channel is Subtitles by Lau, if you want to subscribe. And I have Patreon. It only has a tier for $1 in case you like what I do and you want to support me somehow.
Wait, you're going too fast. Wait.
$5 tier.
Wait a minute. Way too far. I want the audience to follow what you're saying, because you said a lot right there. You're subtitling these movies, you're doing this, but I want people to know that Laura has a YouTube channel. And as you see right here in the image, it's Subtitles by Lau. Okay, so go ahead, find that channel, take a screenshot of this image on the screen and look at the web page right there. Okay, youtube.com/@subtitles by Lau. Go ahead and subscribe. She's already gained 24 subscribers, 31 videos. I see some videos. Here is Laura and her smiling face right here. You have to support this lady. Okay, she's not sitting down tanking it. She's not sitting down like, okay, that's it. That's the end of my life. She's taking action. So go ahead and support Laura. Subscribe to this channel. All interpreters in this community, go ahead and subscribe to this lady's channel right now. Okay, watch those videos, support her, comment, like, share, subscribe. That's how you help YouTubers grow. She's a YouTuber now, raising the bar for our profession, subtitling. You have to be proud of this.
Yes, and I do videos like the one that you show there, where I explain either words that I just found that I didn't know existed, and also Argentinian culture, our words, our language, and our culture, which is also a very good resource for interpreters. If you ever have an Argentinian and you don't know what you're saying, you can go to my channel and learn.
This is very funny. I wanted to read this to you because she says in the description, what do you do when you speak 2.5 languages and you keep on translating stuff in your head for fun? You open a YouTube channel to share your subtitling jobs just because. Hopefully, Mr. Copyright won't come after me. This is awesome. This is very funny. This is like, nice white humor. And she also has links for Instagram, Tumblr, and Patreon. And like I said earlier in this video, you're going to find all of these links in the description box of this video on my YouTube channel, Watchdog Interpreters. And also here is the image for Laura's Patreon channel, patreon.com/CW/subtitles by Lau 20. Go ahead and subscribe. She's got membership tiers. Can you talk about the memberships for the Patreon platform?
Yes, well, the first tier is just $1 a month. It's more like a tip jar if you like what I do. There's another one that is $5. That is in case you want to have the SRT files. Those are the files for the subtitles. In case you want to change something or you want to translate it to another language, it's all with a timestamp, and you can use it in whatever editor that you use. So those are basically the tiers, because I'm very bad at asking for money at people. Instead, I want to start a GoFundMe for you, and I'm like, no, please don't. At least let me do something to earn that money.
Right.
So that's what I'm doing.
Thank you for saying that, because I did offer to start a GoFundMe for Laura, because our interpreting community, especially in Washington State, they're very generous. It doesn't mean that we're going to be asking for money for any situation. But when I heard that you were fired, I said, this is so bad. We need to support Laura. But she said no. She said, I'm going to earn this money. And this is kind of the same attitude that I've had with the Washington Interpreters Labor Organization. People from the get-go have told me, you have to charge people for this information. You have to charge people for these services. You have to charge people the amount of hours that you put into making these videos, these emails, this research, this legal interpretation of things. You know, there is a lot of value there. You have to monetize this. And, you know, I said, well, if he monetizes on its own, it's okay, but I'm not going to be asking for money because I'm benefiting from all this information. I want to help my community. I want to provide value first. And things are changing for us in Washington State for Washington interpreters. I may be doing something like that in the future with our channel, my channel. But in the meantime, I do appreciate Laura's attitude right here. She said, no, I'm going to provide value. She's providing a lot of value with this subtitling business and this Patreon platform, you know. So subscribe to Laura, help a girl out, especially a boss girl standing up for, you know, for the interpreters. Okay, so go ahead and help Laura. With that, we're going to be wrapping up this video. Thank you guys for watching this interview. Do you have a final message for interpreters in Washington State and in the U.S. in general that you would like to share with us, Laura?
The basic thing is, if you see something that is wrong, don't just look away. You know, you have to do something. It sounds stupid. It's something that you will tell a little kid, you know, in school. It's something you learn when you're in kindergarten. You know, you have to speak up when things are wrong. You know, you have to tell your teacher if someone is bullying you or something. I know that it's scary, you know, to losing your job. I was afraid, but at the same time, the change has to begin somewhere. You know, and if it has to start for me and I have to get fired, then fine. At least there's some kind of motion that is starting because of this. So yes, it's scary, but you know, it's worth it. You know, to try to save others from this. And so that's basically it. You know, don't you just think of yourself, think of others as well. And I think that's pretty much it.
Thank you. You know, the last thing that you said, don't just think about yourself, think about others. We have to have a sense of community if we want to preserve this beautiful industry of language access providers interpreting for those in need. Thank you so much, Laura. God bless. We'll be in touch. And I'm excited for your new chapter as a professional, as a human being. And I'm going to support you with your endeavors, your YouTube channel, and all of your platforms. Thank you. Have a good night.